For this week's Starting Line, I'm Sarah Allen. Representative Dan Schoen sponsors House File 1361, a two-prong firearms policy bill. First, the bill would enable law enforcement and family members to ask a court to ban a person from owning a gun if they feel that by possessing a firearm, the person could significantly hurt themselves or others. Secondly, the bill would require the Human Services Commissioner to create and maintain an electronic registry of individuals who voluntarily wish to be ineligible to purchase firearms for a self-determined period of time. People on the registry could turn over their firearms to law enforcement to store temporarily. Schoen, a DFLer from St. Paul Park, sat down with us to explain his bill. Representative Schoen, thanks for talking to us about your bill. Can you give some examples of evidence that family members or law enforcement would use when the court's considering whether or not to allow a person to own a gun?
Well, this really comes back to the idea that law enforcement and family members know the people in their community and their family members better than anybody else. And what happens when we have this disconnect between what's going on in a person's life and the getting them committed or entered into the background check system as somebody that was committed can be quite a delay in time. And really what we're looking at is if law enforcement runs into an individual that's having a problem, or a family member knows that they have a loved one that's having some sort of mental health issue, that they're making threats or statements about either being suicidal. And that's the biggest piece, is like so many people forget about the suicidal part of someone with guns. And a lot more lives are lost to suicide than even just a shooting incident. But this allows family members and law enforcement to go into court and say, we really believe we have an issue here, that this person is a threat or possibly is a threat and needs some help.
Can you describe the process that a person takes in order to put their name voluntarily on the database to be denied a firearms permit and be permitted from purchasing a firearm?
Well, it comes down to just being able to put yourself register through the state, through the BCA, to say, or go to your local police department that will have to develop a form that says, this is who I am. I recognize that I have some issues. I've been, they might decide why they want to do it. We don't necessarily need to disclose publicly why they want to be on that, but they may have had issues where they recognize they have some issues with suicidal tendencies or otherwise, and just say, I don't want to be allowed to purchase a firearm. I'm healthy right now, but there could be a time when I lapse and have an issue, and those are the times that even I look back and want to be able to protect myself from myself in the future.
If you're on this database, how would you remove your name from it?
I think, that's the golden question, as far as, are we going to work through a court process to make sure that they're certified to be okay? I think, there'll obviously be ability to come back and remove your name, because you're an adult. If you want to have your name taken off, you can. And I think it'll come down to just making sure that you have a clean bill of health. That's one option. But again, all these things in this bill are up for debate. We want to make sure that we do protect everyone's Second Amendment rights, because that has been important. Every bill that I've worked on so far is protecting the rights of law-abiding citizens to carry their firearms. That is what they get to do. These folks are people that have crisis issues that everyone knows shouldn't be carrying firearms. And now we're trying to find the venue to fill in that gap between them getting the treatment and getting certified that they shouldn't be carrying firearms. And this isn't just an average person walking down the street and just having law enforcement or family randomly say, I don't think they should carry firearms. You're going to have to display some tendencies and show cause in court as to why their Second Amendment rights should be limited either long-term or short-term.
Well, this brings up the question, what would you say to someone who says your bill could result in firearms being taken away without due process?
That's simply not the case. And every time you talk about firearms, that's the red flag that's thrown up. Is, oh, you're trying to take away my rights. No, we're not trying to take away law-abiding citizens' rights. We're trying to help people that are in crisis, help family members save their family members from suicide or doing something drastic that would take them away permanently or long-term as well. And that's really what it comes down to. It's our job at the legislature in public safety to keep the community safe. And a lot of times, these folks know they're dangerous themselves. And we have a track record where we see previous suspects or actors in mass shootings who have made comments, who have displayed tendencies about what they're going to do. And without further actions, law enforcement can't do anything until there's actually a serious crime. In this circumstance, if there's a repeated case of this and a family member says, my son's talking about going to kill the United States Speaker of the House. He has purchased 3 guns. He has a map drawn up, various things. This gives them an avenue to go to court and say, my son's having a problem. My wife is having a problem. Whoever in that family. And we want an avenue to go to court so that there is due process.
What do you think the future of your bill is?
Well, it just depends. Obviously right now the Republicans are in charge of the House and there's going to be little excitement and appetite for them, but the reality is this is not about law-abiding gun owners. This is about people that need help. And that's all I'm looking for, is to find what is that avenue that we can find. I think the likelihood of the bill is certainly not going to pass this year. If we can get people to talk about it next year, that's great.
We have an update on Representative Zerwas's bill, House File 210, that would require hospitals to make sure they are giving aftercare instructions to the person who will be providing the primary care of the patient once the patient leaves the hospital. House File 210 was substituted for the Senate version, Senate File 107. Senate File 107 had its second reading and was placed on the General Register, which serves as a parking lot where bills await action by the full body. Coming up next week, we'll look to see if there's any updates on Representative Schoen's bill or other bills we've highlighted here on Starting Line. And remember, hundreds of bills get introduced every legislative session in Minnesota. All of them first have to cross the starting line.